with me? Come on. We're gonna clap your hands.
Sound engineering is an important skill to master in working with live sound. While a technical understanding of how a mixer works will help you achieve the sound you're looking for, any seasoned engineer will tell you that the best equipment you have at your disposal is your own ears. Does it sound good? Can be a very relative standard. But knowing the basic principles of how these sound waves work and how the equipment we use can manipulate these waves is critical to our audio knowledge and achieving a great mix. There are 7 characteristics or qualities that make up a sound. Understanding these fundamental qualities can help identify and solve audio problems faster by knowing what characteristics to compensate for and which tool to use to do so. Think about cooking food. Putting a meal together requires taking different ingredients and combining them together in certain ways. If you don't understand what the different ingredients taste like before you add them, you have no way of knowing how they will affect the overall meal that you are preparing. If something doesn't taste right, how do you know how to fix it? Does it need more salt? Is it too sweet? Maybe a pinch of garlic. Understanding the characteristics of sound is like understanding the ingredients in a meal. So, let's go over these characteristics and explain what role they play in making up a sound. The first characteristic is amplitude. Amplitude is the relative strength of a sound wave. We might describe it as how tall a sound wave is. The taller the sound wave, the more amplitude it has, and the louder our ears perceive it to be. We can actually measure the amplitude of a sound wave. When we do, we use a unit of measure called a decibel. We generally abbreviate this to dB. The dB unit is a very common one and seen all over audio equipment. So remember it, the more dBs, the louder it will be to our ears. The second characteristic of sound is frequency. Frequency is what our ears perceive as the pitch of a sound. Does it sound high-pitched like a flute or low-pitched like a bass guitar? We measure frequency in a unit called hertz, and we abbreviate it to Hz. You will see the Hz symbol on the EQ section of your mixer. When we are measuring hertz, we are actually measuring how many full cycles a sound wave completes in 1 second of time. Sometimes frequency is referred to as cycles per second for this reason. The more cycles per second, or hertz, the higher the perceived pitch. Here's 100 hertz. Here's 10,000 hertz. The third characteristic of sound is wavelength. Wavelength is the physical size of a sound wave. And yes, sound waves are really physical things. You just don't see them. The lower the frequency, the longer the wavelength. A 20 hertz wave has a wavelength of 56 feet for a single cycle. A 20 kilohertz wave has a wavelength of 0.6 inches. Because of the actual size, high frequencies are easily absorbed as they travel. Things like walls, chairs, people, etc. can easily absorb high frequencies, whereas lower frequency waves are very difficult to absorb or control. The fourth characteristic of sound is velocity. Velocity is the speed of the sound wave. Sound travels through air at an average of 343 meters per second, or 1,125 feet per second. That calculates to roughly 767 miles per hour. And with sound waves coming at your face at that speed all day long, it's no wonder you're tired by the end of the day. The speed of sound does vary by 2 primary things. One is the medium it is traveling through, like gas, liquid, or solid. Increased density means increased speed. So for example, sound travels faster through water. And number 2 is the air temperature, where increased temperature equals increased speed. It's important to note that the speed of sound, while fast by car standards, is still slow enough to cause trouble. For example, say you have an extra set of loudspeakers set up 50 feet away from the main loudspeakers in your room. The sound wave from those loudspeakers will reach the listener's ears before the sound waves from the main loudspeakers at the stage. The difference could only be milliseconds, but this will lead to a distinct lack of clarity and intelligibility for the people listening to those loudspeakers at the back. Don't worry, in a later video, I'll tell you how to solve this problem. The fifth characteristic is envelope. Envelope is the lifespan of the sound wave. Some sounds are short. They abruptly happen and then are gone, like hitting a snare drum, while others are long and can sustain for a long period of time, like a large church bell. Every sound wave has an attack and a decay. The attack is when the sound wave starts. The decay is the time it takes to completely die out. The initial attack of a sound is sometimes referred to as the transient. The transient is very important to how our ears perceive the sound. Actually, if you were to remove the transients from the sound waves of different instruments, it would be very hard to tell one instrument apart from another. The sixth characteristic is phase. Phase deals with the timing and shape of a sound wave. In sound, we can encounter phase issues whenever we have two microphones on a single sound source, like drum overheads or choir mics. If the timing between the two waves becomes off, they start to cancel out frequencies between them, usually making it sound thin and sometimes very weird. If two sound waves of the same frequencies are perfectly 180 degrees out of phase, you have phase cancellation, and you won't hear either of the sound waves. The seventh characteristic is timbre. Okay, you guys, the debate on how to pronounce this word is real. In my circles of influence, I've heard it most often pronounced timbre with a short A. So I'll just go with that. Timbre refers to the overall tonal qualities of a sound. Many factors contribute to the timbre of a sound, from transients to the overtones produced by the instrument or sound source. Why does a saxophone sound like a sax and nothing like a piano? What if they played the exact same note at the exact same loudness? We could all still tell the difference between a sax and a piano, right? I hope you said yes. Our ears can tell the difference between a sound wave created from a vibrating wooden reed that is resonating a brass tube, like your sax, and vibrating steel strings that have been hit with a felt hammer, like your piano. By understanding these different characteristics of sound, we can identify which ingredients in our mix needs adjusting. Maybe something is too loud or soft. This is amplitude. Or one channel is too muddy or has too much bass. This would be frequency. Or maybe the reverb time on a channel is a bit too long. An example of envelope. Now that we know how sound waves work in their natural environment, we'll look at how to capture them and get them into the ears of the listener.